Morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we talk about Solskjaer potentially getting funds in January. Ridiculous, but probably an element of truth in that. The spin. United waiting on Rodgers. What's the latest on Zidane as well? Plus, I want to sort of talk about this social media nonsense. I believe that United are playing a cowardly game in relation to how they manipulate the fans. We'll talk about that as well. But of course, some people disagree with that, which is absolutely fine. Sorry we're 15 minutes late this morning, but as many of you will know from the charity stream I did on Saturday, I have a funeral for a family friend today, so I had to just pop and get my hair cut early, so 15 minutes late with that. But let's fly straight in to the main topics for Manchester United. And look, I watched the show last night, fantastic show with Adam and Beth and Alex and Joe, and I know they've already spoken about Zidane, and there was a story yesterday about Zidane that his wife's unsure, but he can be persuaded to come to Manchester United. I just want to say off the bat, I personally feel, and I don't have a huge amount of evidence other than the previous actions of this football club, I think this is spin. If you look at last night, I actually replied to Manchester United at about 7 o'clock. They put some pictures out of Ollie, some of the players preparing for Watford. And I just replied and I went, read the room. Like, you hide for 9 days and then you come back with smiling pictures in preparation for a relegation team. And people are like, oh, well, can they not smile? There's another picture of, Rashford and Sancho and Ahmad and Henderson and somebody else, I think it might have been Wan-Bissaka, doing the whole this because they've won at five-a-side. And I said, I've got no problem with the lads celebrating winning a five-a-side game, but what I do have a problem is what Pratt thought it was a good idea to take the picture and put it out. Like, know the room. And I think this is United. The spin is so... They appoint the wrong people. They appoint the wrong people in that football club. The admins, the heads of the departments, they're not United people. They don't understand or read the room of United fans. It's just ignore negativity and focus on positivity to an extent where they ridicule themselves. Like, the fans are pissed off. The club is in a bad situation. We've taken 4 points from 18. We're meant to be in a title race. We're nowhere near it. And you're putting out pictures of five-a-side wins and smiling on the training ground because you know what's happening. We're going to beat Watford. And then Saturday night, it'll be the Ronaldo celebration. We're back and all this bollocks because all you are interested in is spinning a positive all the time. And why do you want to spin a positive? Because you want to sell more shirt sales, don't you? That's what it's all about. Why can we not get a bit of honesty in this football club? You know what? Football fans, Manchester United fans specifically, are deep. They understand that things can go bad and they want some honesty. Like, to hide away for 9 days and say nothing and then put pictures out of fucking training for Watford and smiley faces and just ignore the fact of what we've done for the last 6 weeks. Like, I actually, look, you're going to get criticised. When you don't perform, you're going to get criticised. But how refreshing would it be if Manchester United's, admin tweeted out something over the last 4 days saying, the standards aren't where they need to be. Just something honest. You'll still get criticised. You'll still get sacked the manager, but you'll get a little bit of respect for actually treating your fans like human beings and not bloody whoop merchants where it's like, yeah, come on, let's be positive. And I will call that out. And some people can say, well, you know what, Goldbridge are being too negative, let them do it. Well, they're doing it anyway, so let them do it. But I'm not going to not call it out. I think the way this football club has behaved over the last 9 days, hiding away and then coming out with pictures for Watford, screw that. Where have you been for 9 days? Like, you've left a fan base for 9 days struggling, anxious, stressed. And then you come back with pictures because you're playing Watford at the weekend. They know what's going to happen. They know there's a very big chance we're going to beat Watford on Saturday night. And then it'll all be out. They'll all be back on social media. I tell you what, when we beat Watford on Saturday night, and certain United players are there going, we go again, we're back, this, that and the other, I'm going to get in the replies and say, where have you been for 9 days? Where have you been? It's all right, it's like that family member who turns up at weddings and christenings, but they're never there at funerals. Proper support is the good and the bad. And I for one, am fed up of this positive vibe nonsense after wins, but then we're left to fend for ourselves when the club loses. There There needs to be social responsibility in the way that that football club is run, and it's cowardly, and it's been shown to be cowardly over the last 9 days. And I'm not even talking about Ollie there, to be honest. I'm not talking about Ollie. I'm talking about the way the club's run. And that, for me, to bring it back to Zidane, this story about Zidane and his wife isn't sure about Manchester United, but Zidane is becoming more and more, interested in the job. Look, at Malikins on Twitter, you may know who he is. Phil Brown, he's been on the show before. He tweeted last night that he's spoken to a few people and nobody of credibility is saying that United are in for Zidane. Well, I would echo that. There is nobody of credibility talking about Zidane to United. All we're getting is third, fourth, fifth tier journalists saying United are negotiating. And with all due respect to them, maybe they're going to be right. I hope they are going to be right, because Zidane's my first choice. But Zidane to Manchester United, there is no credibility. Nobody. We had Romano on the show on Monday. No. There is nothing around Zidane to Manchester United. And I just don't see it. I don't see Zidane to Manchester United. I think he's too good for United. I couldn't see Pep coming to United from Bayern Munich. I couldn't see Klopp coming to Manchester United before he came to Liverpool. We're just not that sort of a club. I don't think United can get that sort of a manager. And yes, I'm taunting the club a little bit, but they're very bad. I was listening to something last night about Ed Woodward doesn't want to sack Solskjaer because it'll be the last act of his tenure. I wouldn't really care, Ed. I really don't think it matters. It's like when you've shit the bed 6 days in a row and Sunday night you try not to. You've already done it 6 times in a row. Like, you may as well complete the week. And he's been here 8 years, and his tenure as CEO has been abysmal. And he's done a lot of good things business brand wise, yeah, but we're a football club. Over the last 8 years, since Sir Alex Ferguson retired and since David Gill left, it's been Ed Woodward. And Ed Woodward has had a terrible tenure as a footballing CEO. So not sacking Solskjaer, I think you're just compounding your legacy. I actually think sacking Solskjaer and walking out the club will probably let you end on a high note, because you're acknowledging your massive mistake. But I personally do not think there's anything in Zidane. I don't think United are capable of getting Zidane, and I don't think Zidane would come to this sort of a football club anyway, because it is a mess above the manager. So I don't think there's anything in Zidane. Obviously, Zidane is my number one choice. I don't think there's anything in it, to which people are saying in the chat, why is there so much talk about Zidane? There's so much talk about Zidane, I believe, because Ollie came back on Monday and nobody wants him back. So what do United do? Well, let's generate some positivity. Well, Zidane to Man United is positivity. But it's positivity for the club as well, because if they know it's not going to happen, it takes everybody's attention off Ollie and the players, who can hopefully beat Watford, and then we'll come back behind Ollie after that. That's the plan for the week. Get to Watford. United just want that Watford game more than anything, so that when they win it, they can go, we're back, Ollie's at the wheel and all this crap. But to get to there, they need a story. Well, Zidane to United, never going to happen, but let them talk about it. Positivity. And I think that's what it is. I just think the Zidane story, when you scratch the surface, has got no depth to it at all. It's just spin, I believe. Cowardly runs through our whole club. Just look at the captain getting his army of brothers and sisters to troll people online. It's embarrassing, says Aram. And Morning Mark, unlucky against Chelsea in the final, says Mikel. Oh, God. Yeah, don't remind me about that. At least it was a computer game and it's not the reality of real life. So, yeah, I don't believe anything about Zidane. I'll come back to Rodgers in a minute, but what I wanted to just talk about very, very quickly is Di Marzio this morning. It's nice to talk about a bit of transfer news. So, Di Marzio this morning is talking about Kieran Trippier to Manchester United in January. And then there's a further story to that Jose Mourinho would love to take Dalot to Roma if Manchester United sign Kieran Trippier. Now, on the face of it, it's, in relation to the players, I've got to be honest, I would not buy Kieran Trippier. He's 30 or 31. Again, this to me feels like Cavani. It feels like Ronaldo. It's very short term. And also, I just think there are better right back. I mean, I'd rather get Max Aarons from Norwich, who are going to get relegated. I think Max Aarons is a fantastic right back, and I think he befits what United's meant to be about. You've also got Ethan Laird coming through as well. So I don't actually agree that Kieran Trippier helps Manchester United in any sense of shape or form. In fact, I find it contradictory to what Solskjaer said this club was meant to be all about. He spent the first 18 months talking about buying players that are ready to take a step up and be part of a journey, and then he spent the last 18 months buying more and more players that are coming towards the end of their career to close a short-term gap. And remember, we don't want Conte, we don't want Mourinho because they're too short-term. We've got such a short-term coach at the moment. Look, he's going to back fives to grind results out. He's buying a lot of older players, and Trippier falls into that category. He's a good right-back, Trippier, but I don't want it. But I think the most interesting thing for me is, and Marcelino says, with the Glazers at the top, I don't see United being back at the top. Perez, as much as he is a snake, at least he has some type of standards. And Apollo says, Mark, I don't know how I made it this far. Watching you for 12 months has been a joy. Sorry about last night, says Apollo. Thank you very much, Apollo. What did you do to me last night? I'm worried about that. Hopefully he might be talking about Solihull Moors losing or something like that. But the big thing for me is not Kieran Trippier or selling Delo. I think the big headline here is, why the hell would United give him any more money? Like, there should be no money spent in January if Solskjaer's in charge. Absolutely not. Absolutely no. He should not get any more signings, because if you buy Trippier at 31 and then you've got to sack Solskjaer in the summer, a new manager comes in and goes, oh, great, you've just spent money on somebody I never would have wanted and who's got no resale value. Well done. We cannot be buying anybody in January. Nobody should be bought in January. And I know we need a CDM, but would you trust Solskjaer to get the right one? We shouldn't be letting him have any money. He is Mourinho 3 years ago. I didn't want Mourinho getting any money in January if he'd survived. I don't want Ollie. Why should he get any more money? He's had 400 million. He's had more than any manager's had since Sir Alex. Like, he should not get any more money in January. And if he's saying to Murtaugh or Fletcher, go and get me Trippier, I'd be saying, hold on a minute, £80 million for Harry Maguire, that's not worked out great. 50 million on Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and you want us to go and buy another right back who's in his early 30s. Swivel on it. I wouldn't go anywhere near it. And I'd say, look, you might be right. Trippier might be a really good player, but we're not giving you any more money, and we're not giving you any more players. You can get through to the summer with your £50 million right back. And also, we spent 20 million on Delo, and I know you didn't buy him, but you don't really play him anyway, mate. So, you've decided in training he's not good. What, like Donny, 35 million? Like Sancho, 74 million? You start playing some of these players and show us that they're not good enough, and maybe we'll buy you a right back. But I tell you what, mate, you're on thin ice. I'm not giving you a penny in January. You get yourself out of this problem. You've had £400 million spent on you. Get yourself out of it. Stop playing part of the bus Tony Pulis tactics and start showing us why we should spend some money on you. And I tell you what, you'll be lucky to be in a job in January. Now get out! But no, on a serious note, how, why, and again, is it just spin? Oh, we're going to get Trippier in January. I don't want to hear about January signings. There is no point talking about January signings. He doesn't deserve any. He's not even using Sancho and Donny. That's over £100 million. He doesn't use Tellez. That's another 15 million quid. He doesn't deserve any players in January. And look, that's completely separate to the fact that I wouldn't sign Trippier anyway. He's a short-term, okay right back. He was okay at Spurs. He went to Atletico Madrid and he's been okay. He's okay for England. I don't see Liverpool, Chelsea or Man City queuing up to bring Kieran Trippier back to England. So I'd wonder why we're doing such a short-term thing to basically bench a £50 million signing of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's. Hey Mark, hypothetically, what would genuinely happen if we lost to Watford, Villarreal, Chelsea and Arsenal? Michael, I think all bets are off, Michael. He shouldn't be in a job now, so I can't predict he'll get sacked. Mark, I've seen news on Nani that he might come back as a stint like Ronaldo. Sorry, I meant about Solihull losing in my previous message, Apollo. Okay, thanks, mate. I mean, why would you bring Nani back? That's got to be the joke of the day. Why would you bring Nani back? I mean, we've already got people like Martial, Lingard, and Sancho who don't get picked. Hi, Mark. Would you say that it's certain that at least Ollie will be gone regardless of who comes in? Says Divash. No, I don't. It goes back to what somebody was saying there about if you lose to Watford and Arsenal and Chelsea. I don't think there are any certainties around Manchester United. My feeling on this, and we'll talk about what's happening with Brendan Rodgers in a moment. Because United are waiting on Rodgers effectively, that's the story. But my feeling is this: Manchester United haven't. I actually think this is about one person. I think this is the CEO. I think it's Ed Woodward. I think he is solely to blame for this because he's the CEO. He makes the decisions. So you know what? I have got no sympathy for a CEO saying it's not my fault. I mean, we've already heard him leaking after the Super League. He didn't know anything about it. I mean, this is the level of our CEO. He made out, well, it leaked through the press. He didn't personally say it, but it leaked through the press that Ed Woodward didn't even know about the Super League. The CEO of Manchester United tried to make out he didn't know about the Super League, apparently. The CEO is in charge of the football club. The CEO has to get criticised when the football club is failing on the football pitch. I personally think the only reason Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has not been sacked is because the CEO, one person, doesn't want to sack him because he gave him a 3-year contract in the summer. So effectively, Manchester United's whole future is in the hands of Ed Woodward, who, when you look at his background, is a banker. Mourinho, the defensive manager, wants an attacking fullback who can't get games at United over a defensive fullback, says Andre. And Mark, if Glazers keep Ollie until the end of this season, do you think our club is screwed and Ollie will be here next season? Says Andy and Bruno. And Philip, welcome to the Members Club. I have got no... I mean, look, it's only a few short weeks ago that I said I think that Solskjaer will be in the job this time next year. So people talking about him being sacked in the summer, I think if he makes the summer, he gets another year. I really do think that if he makes the summer, he will get another year. Because people will say, well, what if he finishes 5th? He won't make the summer if he finishes 5th. And what I mean by that is, if you look at David Moyes, he was sacked in March. The minute top 4's gone, they will sack him. So if it's late February, if it's early April, they'll sack him once top 4's gone, and we're out of the Champions League. So that will happen. If he makes the summer, that means he's finished 4th. I think they'll give him another year. I think that the longer Solskjaer stays in post, the more toxic the situation's going to get in the fan base. And as I said, there's a social responsibility on behalf of Manchester United that they shy away from. They don't seem to get that they are a social football club. They are not a business. They don't seem to get that this is real life. And, you know, maybe they should pick up the phone to people, because I'll tell you what, this is real life. You know, I get it on social media all the time. If people disagree with me, it can get quite horrible. It can get quite, you know, personal. And that's because it matters. It matters to people. And United don't seem to get that. They don't seem to realise that they are the string pullers of a fan base. And they're walking into a situation that is incredibly toxic, and it's generated by their inaction around the manager. And it's only going to get worse. If we beat Watford 5-0 on Saturday, you can imagine what Saturday night's going to be. You're going to get the people who are toxically Ollie Out arguing with people who are just happy that we've won. And then we'll lose to Chelsea maybe. And then the Ollie Out toxic side will be bashing the people who are like, well, we won last week. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And the club are the ones with the power to stop that. Because I tell you what, I don't feel guilty saying this. Solskjaer should have been sacked. Any club, I think, in the Premier League would have sacked him. The bottom clubs just sacked their manager. A mid-table club in Villa has just sacked their manager. Palace, near the bottom, sacked their manager a few weeks ago. Spurs, trying to get in the top 4, sacked their manager. So there's no doubt that Solskjaer should have been sacked. But if we had sacked him, the fan base would be in a far positive position. I mean, and the ridiculous thing is, the club have missed the trick, because if they'd sacked Solskjaer and they'd brought a new manager in, their share price, their social interactions would be huge. They would be, because it happened after Mourinho. When Mourinho was sacked, it went woof up under Ollie. And when Mourinho came in after Van Gaal that summer, I think that's the highest our share price in the club has ever been. So, you know, they could have united the fan base. They could have got a big boost around the club, but they've chosen not to, and I think they're creating this. Not Palace, Watford. Sorry, Palace didn't sack their manager. It was Watford. Palace manager's doing fantastically well. Patrick Vieira. I mean, what a job he is doing at the moment. Use January to sell players from our bloated squad, says Stephen Swift. So anyway, look, let me just talk about Rodgers. This was a story that came in last night that... Frank Lampard being linked with the Leicester job, and that United, if they sack Solskjaer, will give Rodgers a real decision to make. The understanding with Brendan Rodgers is, and there's a lot of prediction around Brendan Rodgers. We obviously know that. Look, I know that United have had some sort of dealings with Brendan Rodgers. Now, I don't know whether it's official through Leicester. I don't know whether it's hypothetical. Nobody really knows that, but United have certainly expressed an interest in Brendan Rodgers. Where we are in relation to that interest is basically three. One, he doesn't want the job at the moment, he wants it in the summer. Two, he's not sure about the job because he's thinking about Man City. Or three, United are trying to get Zidane. Now, I think the truth of the matter is that United are indecisive. I don't actually believe the ball is in Brendan Rodgers' court at all, because I don't think United have actually offered him the job. And I think if United offered him the job, I think Brendan Rodgers would probably take the job, and United would then have to negotiate with Leicester. I just don't think United have made this decision. And all this talk about Zidane and Rodgers, I just think it's spin to the extent that people think that we are waiting to negotiate with a coach and then sack Solskjaer. I still think, as I said before, that Ed Woodward doesn't want to sack Solskjaer and is therefore trying to give him more chances than any manager's ever had to try and spin this around. And therefore, I think we're in for a very rocky ride. Because I personally think if we'd sacked Solskjaer last week and offered the job to Rodgers, he would have took it. And that's what should have happened. But, you know, obviously that's a bit of a prediction. I accept that. But I certainly don't feel that we're waiting on Rodgers per se, that, you know, he's thinking about it and we're like, can you tell us, because then we'll sack Ollie. I don't think that's happening. I think it's like, well, you've got to offer me the job first, and I think Rodgers is probably waiting on United for us to do that. But United don't want to push the button. I think effectively we're just living in a world of spin, where United are desperately trying to salvage a positive from a situation that is unsalvageable, really. And look, this is a great point here. Andre says Ollie will be kept regardless of league position to appease the idiots singing his name. Ed wanted to sack Moyes all along because he wasn't his appointment. Says Andre. And hi Mark, how are you, bro? Love from India. When will Zidane come? Says Trisha. Well, I don't think Zidane is going to come, as much as he'd be as much as he would be my number one appointment. But I was talking to somebody last night. I was out last night. I was talking to somebody about United. And basically this hypothetical, and I thought I'll bring this into the show tomorrow morning. If United beat Watford 3 points, we draw with Chelsea, we beat Arsenal, we beat Palace, and we beat Norwich. I'm talking league form because Champions League's irrelevant. We will get through. So if we were to take 13 points from our next 15, that would be 4 wins and a draw. You've then got more winnable games over Christmas. I think we've got Brentford, Newcastle, you know, so there's more wins there. So if we were to go on look, hypothetical, 10 games, next Premier League 10 games, we win 8, and we draw 2. So you take, 26 points from 30. That's title winning form. And the question was put to me, if you're not, and look, obviously, massive, probably not going to happen, but look, it's achievable, but it probably won't happen. You look at the squad, you look at the fixtures, and you think, look at this. What I would say is look at the start to the season. We had Leeds at home, Southampton away, Wolves away, Newcastle, and then I think we had West Ham, Everton, Villa, and we dropped quite a few points, didn't we, from those games, and we expected to take 18 points from our first 6. So an expectation that we do well, and I'm being called delusion bridge by Leith. But the point is not that. If we were to win 8 of our next 10 and draw 2, the question put to me last night was, would that make you change your mind about Ollie? And the question I would put to you is, if we won 8 of our next 10 and didn't lose any, so we win 8 and we draw 2 and we take 26 points, we're going to be in the race for top 4. We're probably still going to not be that far off first place. Would that make you change your mind and be Ollie in? And I said, absolutely not. And they said, well, that's not really supporting the team, because what if they play well in those 10 games? And I said, but I've seen it before. I've seen this before. I said, for me, it's a personal choice. I think if we win the next 5 games, a lot of people will get behind Ollie again, because I think football's very flippant, and I also think United's positivity spin is very good at manipulating people and getting them feeling positive. They just hide when it's negative. But I won't personally be Ollie in for a long time. And that's not stubbornness. I was Ollie Out only after Liverpool. I gave him such an opportunity. I stuck by him because of sentimentality for too long. I put my hands up, I did. And I see people saying that. But it took a lot for me to say Ollie out. But when I say Ollie out, I mean Ollie out. And I ain't coming back because he goes on a 10-game unbeaten run. Because we've been here before. Literally a year ago, after Istanbul, United are talking to Pochettino. He goes on a massive unbeaten run and gets us top of the league. Everyone's like, this is great. And then we bottle it all again. And that, to me, is the only way Ollie gets me back. Is that not only does he go on a big 10-game unbeaten run, he turns it into a 20-game unbeaten run. And we end up in a title race. If he can deliver a title race in April from here, then I will come back and say, look, he delivered what he needed to do. If we're just in a race for top 4, I want him sacked. If we finish 4th, I want him sacked. So that's where I am on this, and that's why I think it will get quite toxic, because I think if we do start winning games, people will be willing to give him another chance. And I will enjoy winning. Like, look, that Spurs game was very difficult because it was like we won, but it felt weird. The Watford game at the weekend, I just want to win. You know, we've got to win that. You know, my reason for beating Watford is because it's Manchester United. But I'm also thinking, well, look, we'll probably lose to Chelsea. And if he's not going to get the sack after Watford anyway, because we're playing Villarreal in 2 days. So we need those 3 points, whether it's Ollie's or Rodgers or Zidane. Beating Watford is very important for the next manager anyway, because he won't get sacked if we lose to Watford. So I want to win against Watford, and I will celebrate winning. But I do think we're in for a very toxic ride, because I think if we go on a run which Ollie's capable of, everyone will be willing to give him another chance. I'm not giving him another chance because he's had 4 or 5 already, and you shouldn't get 4 or 5 chances at United like that. So for me to be back Ollie in, he's got to get us back in a title race in April, and I'll be stunned if he does that. But I certainly think he can get us to finish 4th, and I certainly think that, you know, some people will be willing to give him a chance. But I'm not going to, if we go on a good run, I'm not going to be there like, you know, screaming and shouting Ollie out after a win. You know, you've got to appreciate, you know, and applaud a win. But I remain very firmly Ollie out, because I think I know what this season's going to be, and we've all watched football for a long period of time. This to me feels like it could go the way of Van Gaal, which I hated. I hated Van Gaal's final season. I was Van Gaal out from Christmas, and they didn't sack him till May, and all the way up until May we were nearly getting 4th, and we won an FA Cup. So that was it was a horrible 5 months, because when you decide you want the manager to go, and then you have to sit watching it for 5 months. As a fan of the club, you want to win, but you also know the manager's not for you. And I think with United, that's where we are. So for me, I've been through this road before. I mean, most of you will. You know, some people were very early out for Mourinho as well. But for me, this just reminds me of Van Gaal. I'd made my mind up 5 months before they sacked him, and ultimately it was just a long goodbye. And I think with Ollie, it's probably going to be that as well, because this season for me is just about finishing 4th, which in itself is a failure, isn't it? When you finish 3rd and 2nd and you've brought in the quality that we've got. But we need the points against Watford. We do. We desperately need the points against Watford. I just want to say something else as well. I don't know whether anybody saw my Twitter feed last night at Mark Goldbridge. If you didn't, Ayush says the scary thing is that this is the precedent the club is setting for decision making. Even if they get rid of Ollie, it will be the same level of inaction with the next future decision, not the sign of a club on the way to success. Well, just before I talk about Donny, very important about Donny, I think that's a great point by Ayush. This is why United need a new owner, because the standards that this football club has now under the Glazers is lower than it's probably been. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't. Certainly, the standards through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties are way better than they are now. I mean, the football club now, if somebody walked in and said, tell me what Manchester United standards are corporately or from the top, you would say, well, this is a club that's happy to lose. Well, not happy. This is a club that will accept losing 5-0 at home to Liverpool, will accept losing, being played off the park by Man City, will accept 4 points from 18 and not sack a manager. So that, this is a club that will accept 4th place. This is a club that's not really interested in winning major trophies. This is a club that will treat its fans like crap and hide away when there's difficult things that need to be said, but will be all over them if there's something positive. So this is the standard of Manchester United. It's really, really low. And I think that's a great point by Ayush, because it's beyond Ollie for me. Ollie should be sacked. We all know that. But he can't sack himself. But what about the next manager? What if they bring Southgate in? And what if Southgate gets beat 6-0 by Liverpool at home and they don't sack him? These decisions that United have made over the last few weeks go way bigger than Solskjaer and his coaching setup, because he can't make these decisions. These are decisions being made by our board, and the board have lowered the standards of the football club. Whoever's on that board and whoever's made this decision, they've lowered the standards of this football club to a level that we are a laughing stock. We are being bantered. It's embarrassing. It hurts. But you're right. In 2 years' time, the next manager's been here 2 years. It's going wrong, and he's getting humiliated. You go, well, he probably won't get the sack because Ollie didn't. So we need new ownership. We need new. The club is desperate for a reset. It needs a total reset. It's desperately crying out for a, top to bottom clear out in relation to every area. Every area needs revamping. Like it does. I know exactly what that football club needs, and I'm sure many of you do as well. And it needs an identity, and it needs united people, and it needs inclusivity, and it needs diversity, and it needs to be, switched on to everybody instead of switched on to little individual groups. And what I mean by individual groups is they focus on little individual groups and they ignore everybody else. They focus on the positive and they refuse to talk about the negatives. And it makes it like Disneyland. It's just fake, and it's Mickey Mouse. Everyone's got a big, Mickey Mouse. If you ever go to Disneyland, he doesn't frown. He's never having a bad day. He's never at a funeral. He's always smiling. We're Disneyland. It's always this big fake smile. And the reality is, real life is about life and death. It is about good and bad, and that's what makes us as a social animal. We're grown up enough to know that things are bad. And we need that leadership from the club to accept it's bad. But they're not. They all hide away. And then when we beat Watford, it'll be big smiley Mickey Mouse smiles again. And no United fan wants that, because we already know it's bad. What we need is leadership in the bad times, not hiding away. And the club just want to treat it like Disneyland. So we do need a change from top to bottom. And unfortunately, I think there was an opportunity in the summer, and it didn't necessarily mean getting rid of the Glazers, but I think if those protests and everything had built over the summer into this season, into more games, they'd have been forced to do something more than a little meeting about giving us 10%. It was just basically what happened in the summer is there was some amazing work done by so many fan groups and then it stopped. And then there was a meeting with Joel Glazer and it was accepted. And really, there should have been a further push, because it's like the first offer if you ever sell your car or your house. If you take the first offer, you take the first offer. If you negotiate, you can get more. And we should have negotiated. With Ollie in charge, we'll lose against both Chelsea and Arsenal. Even worried about Watford with players not willing to fight for Ollie, by the way. VAR, you know what, VAR? I disagree with you on that. I disagree with you on that because, unfortunately, I actually think if you look at the way Harry Maguire has dealt with things, if you look at the way Scott McTominay was talking about things 2 weeks ago, if you look at some of the comments of Bruno, I think these players will be motivated against Watford to prove people wrong. But I think they're trying to prove the wrong people wrong. I think they're trying to prove people like Roy Keane wrong. I think they're trying to prove people like you wrong. I think that their motivation is to prove you wrong. I don't think their motivation is because we're Manchester United and we should be winning the league and the standards of Manchester United. So I expect to see some response from the players, because I think they can't wait to put tweets out on Saturday night to say, well, we proved you wrong. Proving the fans wrong will be winning the league. If you can do that, you can run around doing that as much as you like. But I think there will be a response from the players, because I think United have become very, very good at playing the social media game, playing for sympathy, playing the victim. And the thing about when you play the victim is that you can get up for 1 or 2 games. We saw it against Spurs, didn't we? They can react. And Watford are so bad that United should react. And I'm not disrespecting Watford in any way. Watford could get a result against us, but it's men against boys when you look at the lineups, and we should win. But yeah, winning the league is the only way. I think these players can prove us wrong. Funky says Rodgers' deal is done. It's just timing. I'd never say that, because obviously people will go, Goldbridge said this, but I actually think you're not far off. I think Rodgers is the man that United can get. And you know what? I think I personally, having spent a lot of time thinking about it, looking at what he's done, remembering what he was like at Swansea, I think he's perfect for United. And the thing that really, really, really grabs me about Rodgers is the fact that he's not even 50 yet. And, you talk about dynasties, and obviously, look, it's a big leap to say he's going to create a dynasty, but, if it did go well with Rodgers, he could be, he could be here for 20 years, 15 years. So he's got a CV as well. I'd never liken Rodgers to Sir Alex, but he has got a CV, and there's way more similarities between Brendan Rodgers than there is Ollie and Sir Alex. Way more. But, people won't want to talk about that. Ollie's not a nice person like what we think. He will put himself in front of any players just to keep his job. If he does love our club, he should not be here anymore, says Minnie. I just wanted to bring in as well, I don't know whether you saw it yesterday. I did tweet it on @MarkGoldbridge. There was a video that the Dutch Twitter account put out celebrating qualifying for the World Cup, and they were all jumping around. My first thought was Donny should be there. You think about Donny van der Beek 2 years ago at Ajax. Well, not 2 years ago, but you know what I mean. Like, before he came to United, Ajax, Champions League semi-finalist, Ballon d'Or, young Ballon d'Or contender, I think he was. Mainstay of the Dutch national side. 2 years later, the Dutch are qualifying for the World Cup, jumping around and celebrating, and a player that is arguably one of their best players 2 years ago is sat at home, watching it. And all I could think about when I saw those Dutch players jumping around is Donny must be distraught, because he should be there, but he shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there because he's not playing football. But if he was playing football, he would be there. If he was playing first team football, he would be in that Dutch side celebrating like that. And it made me think, I'm going to mention this on the morning show, because we all get locked into Donny van der Beek as a Man United player not getting game time. But look at the wider picture. I mean, you only get one career. He was 23 when we bought him. We've cost him 2 years, and a very important 2 years as well. At 23, you're still developing. He's lost 2 years of his career. It's absolutely abysmal how he's been treated, and I felt for him last night, because there's absolutely no way he wouldn't have been sat there, gutted last night. Very hypothetical, but what if we finish second but 2 points behind the champions? Well, to do that, Michael, I would probably, I'm not going to be stubborn. If we finish 2 points behind the champions, we'll have turned this situation around hugely. So I would be very tempted to say, look, Ollie deserves another season, but it's such a massive hypothetical now to say that. Woodward apparently getting an advisory role in the club next. Yet can't even make a decision on Ollie now, let alone advise others what to do. Mate, this is why, Gerard, this is why this club needs the Glazers out. Why would you keep somebody on who's crap at their job as an advisor? He's crap at his job. And people, look, let me be fair. Ed Woodward is a businessman. He's an ex-banker. He's brilliant at finance. I've always said that. On the finance side, he's brilliant. But we're a football club, and he's a CEO. You should never have a CEO who knows next to nothing about football. And his tenure, and he's nearly been here 10 years. We've never been in a title race, having won. And obviously you can say, well, that was down to Sir Alex, of course. But his job was to replace Sir Alex. He's never done it. He's never even got close. We've never been in a title race. In the 10 years he's been here, we've won an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, and a Europa League. 3 trophies in 10 years. That is abysmal. Absolutely. And no title race. It's shocking. Why would you keep him on? Aram says, the same top Reds that defend Ollie, whatever he does, will be the first to get on Rodgers' back after a bad result. Liverpool connection won't end well, says Aram. Can I just defend? Look, I don't like the top Red thing. I don't like the fact that people are having a pop at, our fans who, go home and away and everything like that. There is this misconception that, that these sort of outlets have a problem with them. I've always said that the home and away support we have is the best in the world. I've got no problem if they sing Ollie's at the wheel. It really doesn't bother me. I know it bothers some of you, but it really doesn't bother me because they sang about Moyes. They were singing, we'll stand by David Moyes, we'll stand by... They sang for Van Gaal and they sang for Mourinho. So these fans who are singing for Ollie, I mean, of course, there's sentimentality there because it's Ollie, but they sang for Mourinho, they sang for Van Gaal. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. They travel up and down the country. You know, it's an event, it's a social event. They're on buses together, they're mates. You know, this is what they do. And you can't knock people for something like that. That is not a problem in any sense, shape, or the form. The problem is the club might be persuaded by it, but again, it just shows how shallow the club is because these people sang about Van Gaal and he got sacked. They sang about Mourinho and he got sacked. So I ain't got no problem with the fans singing for Ollie or anything like that. And the reality is as well, if you speak to a lot of these match-going fans, their issue is that they just don't want to be. They don't want to be those fans who start booing a manager. They didn't want to do it about Jose. They didn't want to do it about Van Gaal. They don't want to do it about Ollie. But if you speak to them, most of them know Ollie needs to be sacked. They're not backing Ollie in the sense that they think he should stay in a job. They know the football's crap and they know that we should be doing better and they know he should get the sack. But it's not their job to sack him. It's the club's job, and I think everybody needs to remember that. Stop attacking fans because they won't boo Ollie in the ground. Stop attacking Ollie because he's turned back up for training. The reality is there's only one person to blame for this, and it's Ed Woodward, because he's the CEO and he won't do what his job description is, which is put the best interests of the football club first. So I'm not one who wants to see fans arguing amongst themselves about this, and I certainly think that Ollie is, now been scapegoated by the club. For me, they've probably got an arm round him, Ollie, at the club. But it's the other hand I'd be worried about because I think that I think he's being stabbed in the back. I think he's being held up as the scapegoats, and it protects the club. The longer Ollie's there getting stick, the less time the Glazers are getting the stick. Which is why when people talk about protests, if we were protesting, it's a difficult one because people feel that it's protesting because they won't sack Ollie. If they sacked Ollie, would people be protesting about the Glazers? No, they wouldn't. But that's something that many fans would get behind, is regardless of whether Ollie's here or not, the protests about the ownership should happen. But would they happen? Would there be demand for protest if Ollie was sacked and Zidane was the manager tomorrow? They wouldn't. And that's why people had a problem with the protest. If you want to protest, it's up to you. That's the whole point of democracy, isn't it? But it is intrinsically linked with the sacking of Solskjaer. Hi Mark, my other half gave me the sack. Ollie is still here. Great, says Mikhail Roach. And love the channel and the ability to speak about all sides to an argument despite your own beliefs. Common the Reds. Love from Barbados, says Alexander Abed. Well, look, I might not always agree with the other side, but I do think it's important to bring the other side in, which is why it's great when we're interacting the way that we do, because, somebody was there blaming fans because they're singing in the ground. Mark Griffiths, thanks for the super chat. But I actually don't have a problem with any fan expressing their opinion one way or the other. I haven't got a problem with fans if they want to turn up at Old Trafford and protest. I haven't got a problem if people don't want to. But for me, the big issue at United is the board and it's the ownership, and it will continue to be that. And I'd make this prediction as well. Just hold this thought. If we did sack Solskjaer and we brought in Brendan Rodgers, what makes you think we won't be here in 3 years' time? Again, talking about poor ownership. A manager can't work miracles if they haven't got a board to work miracles with. And we've seen it with Van Gaal. We've seen it with Mourinho. I don't think the board under Ollie have been that bad in relation to providing him the players. I think Ollie's messed that up. I think he spent the money on the wrong players. Look, he wasted £35 million on Donny. That could have been for a CDM. He's wasted £74 million on Sancho. That could have been a CDM. So I think the board under Van Gaal and Mourinho were terrible. I think under Ollie they've been better. I still think we'd be far better if we had better owners and a director of football that was actually a director of football. If United don't play well on Saturday and look rusty, then I wonder if the media will call out the 9 days off. I doubt it, says Rory Saunders. Look, my predictions are terrible, so totally go with the opposite. But I expect a United win on Saturday. I actually think it will be a straightforward win, and I think we'll be no further forward. I think we'll just be thinking about that Chelsea game the week after. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. Make sure you subscribe. We have got an 8 o'clock show tonight, and obviously if anything happens, we will go live. Anash says, do the Glazers realise their crap? Ed Woodward actually thinks he's done a good job at United. I've been told this numerous times from people in the industry. Ed Woodward actually thinks he has done a good job at United and he gets unfair press. That's the dangerous thing. They describe social media as hysterical. So they just think fans are hysterical. They don't actually think that they think they're better than you. They think they're right. They think you're wrong. Which is why the social media, the football club, and the way it presents itself is terrible. Look, United could ring me up today, and by tomorrow, people would be enjoying United's content a lot more. Because they'd go, what? You want to put that out on a social post? Yes, I do. We can't do that. And you know what? The first thing I'd do is I'd get hold of that Twitter account and I'd put a tweet out to this effect and say something along the lines of, look, massive game against Watford at the weekend. Obviously, we're in an unacceptable position and we take full responsibility for that. But we stand united and together we'll get better. You know, a little bit of bullshit, but a little bit of honesty as well. You know, the club just won't accept. They don't do things on a personal level. They just want to promote the positivity, and that to me is a big issue. But you know, we're Disney. We're Disney World. Like I said, when I think of United now, I think of Mickey Mouse. Whether it's raining, whether Minnie's had an affair, he's still got a face on like that. You know, Mickey comes home from work. Donald Duck's in bed with Minnie. You know, the car's been scratched. There's no beer in the fridge. He's still got the smile on his face, and that's what reminds me of United, is that it's just this big fake Disneyland smile all the time. And people want realism. The reason things on TV do really well now, like Netflix series and this, that and the other, is because it's different. There's a lot of drama out there now that, you know, it delves into what real life is. It's not this fake fantasy world or formulaic stuff that we've seen in the past. And United are just Disneyland, Mickey Mouse smile all the time. And it frustrates people. And they need to modernise. But the only way they're going to modernise is by appointing people who know the club and know the way, you know, are in touch with the way people are. And they don't do that. They'd rather go and employ somebody that, you know, worked at Lad Bible, you know, or something like that, who gets loads of clicks and viral clicks. But it's formulaic. You know, it's not real. Anyway. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. As I said, if you want to get your Christmas jumpers, the link's in the video description. Worldwide shipping, but you need to get those orders in the next week if you want to get them before Christmas. Links in the video description for that. We'll be about at 8 o'clock as well. And Mickey Mouse FC is going to trend. I'm going to tweet it. Let's see how many tweets it gets. I'll speak to you in a bit. Take care. Thanks for joining me this morning. Really good conversation again. Lots to talk about. But yeah, I don't believe we're in for Zidane. I think Rodgers is the man, and I think giving him buying Trippier for Ollie is a mistake. He shouldn't get any more money in January. I know we need a CDM. I wouldn't let Ollie buy it. He should get no money. Crack on with what you've got until the summer, and then if you get us in a title race, you can have another year. If you don't, you can go, and the money can be to the new manager. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all in a bit.